for it?
Yep, getting there.
Okay. Perfect. So here's our agenda. We will have the PowerPoint available as well afterwards. So, we'll have some contact information, some other things in here that we'll share with you. So our agenda today, like I said, Lisa's going to kick us off with fiscal monitoring review and overview. And then we'll come back to the PowerPoint for a couple of slides and talk about why we're doing online invoicing and why this specific solution. For those of you who also are familiar with Mayor's Office of Housing, or MO, if you have grants over there, they also use a version of TGS. And so because we have a lot of grantees that cross over between the two departments, I want to give you some ideas of what's different between our version and their version. Some of you will continue to use both this year. And then, as I said, we'll do an actual walkthrough of the applications and of online invoicing. And then we'll talk a little bit about what happens after today, how to file help tickets if you hit problems or have suggestions, that sort of thing, and give you some ideas of additional resources that are available. So, Lisa, if you'd like to go ahead and kick it off.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me? Is my audio okay?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. Okay, so as Chris said, my name is Lisa, and I'm the Fiscal Compliance Officer for OEWD, and I conduct most of the fiscal monitoring for the Workforce Development Division. Depending on the number of contracts that we have for the year, I enlist the help of Chris's team. So fiscal monitoring takes place once a year, usually between the months of November and March. And there are two different types of fiscal monitoring for our department. So depending on the type of funding you receive, you'll have to go through one or more of these processes. So let's start with the citywide joint monitoring process. If you receive funding from two or more of the departments on the previous screen,
Sorry.
That's okay. So if you receive funding from two or more of these departments, then you're automatically put into the joint monitoring pool. So for instance, if you receive money from us and DPH. Then myself and someone from DPH will coordinate your monitoring together. And if you're in this pool, you will either receive a self-assessment or a site visit. And self-assessments are granted to agencies that are considered to be low risk, which means they've had at least 2 clean reports for the previous 2 years in a row. But in either case, the form looks the same. It looks like this. So the form has 2 main sections. The first section is fiscal, and the second section is compliance. The fiscal portion covers budgets, cost allocation, fiscal reporting, fiscal audit, and invoice testing. And compliance goes over reviews board governance, sunshine ordinance, ADA, and emergency planning. Now, if you receive federal dollars from us, so whether that be Workforce Investment Act or Department of Labor funding, this requires that you receive a physical site visit from us each year. And it requires a different form that looks like this. Oh, and just an FYI, I'll be emailing both forms out to everyone on the webinar after. Okay, so there is some overlap between the 2 forms in the fiscal section. It too looks at budget, cost allocation, and financial policies, but it also covers items very specific to federal and WEA compliance. So this includes everything on the screen. There's some specific regulations around program income, and there is a federal salary limitation that we have to check for, and there's some pretty stringent requirements in managing property and equipment purchased with federal dollars. Now, if you receive general fund from us, you'll most likely go through a self-assessment using the citywide form. Go to the next slide. So if you have any questions regarding which form applies to you, you can definitely contact me. I know it gets a little bit confusing because some of you will have to go through both of these processes at the same time. But yes, I will give you my contact information shortly. So you can contact me if you have any questions about that. But I'd like to review some of the most common findings and also kind of review how best to prepare for monitoring. So the most common finding is associated with cost allocation. Particularly with our funding, it can be very complicated because WIA is split up into 2 different funding streams and several service categories. Sometimes you'll have to allocate all the way down to each service category. So that's pretty complicated. So I'll be asking questions around how you allocate your shared costs, both personnel and non-personnel. So if you have people that are charging their time across programs, I'll look to see how they're charging their time that way and how it's being allocated. And then other shared costs like rent, utilities, supplies, how do you allocate that? What's your base? And is this reflected in the budget? I also see findings related to fiscal policies and procedures. So usually it's that they're not current. So current, it's current means within the last 2 years, updated within the last 2 years. And then also, do your policies and procedures sufficiently address internal controls? I'll also look at your financial reports. I'll be looking at your balance sheet and your P&L. So checking to see if your asset to liability ratio is more than 2, whether your P&L shows income and expense by program. As for timesheets, I'll look to see if staff are shared across programs. Do they record their time that way? And in general, are timesheet corrections initialed by both employee and supervisor? So board meetings. If you reach a certain threshold of funding from the city, you are required by the Sunshine Ordinance to have 2 of your board meetings open to the public. So I'll check for that, and I'll also check to see that they were advertised at the library and the clerk of the board. Personnel, emergency operations, and ADA policies. So 1, does your agency have these policies in place? And 2, are your staff trained on them? And then lastly, there's subcontract provisions. So if you happen to subcontract federal money out to another agency, in your agreement, it's required that you have very specific federal contract provisions in there. So I'll check for that. Moving on to how to prepare for fiscal monitoring. So my recommendation really is to start now and start by looking at the monitoring form that applies to you. So go through each section of the monitoring forms and act as if you are monitoring yourself. For those of you that are going through the citywide review, I recommend that you hop onto the SF Controller's website and download the monitoring guidelines. This is a great reference guide. It goes section by section of the monitoring form, and it provides examples of what we're looking for. And then if you're receiving federal dollars from us, make sure to go to the DOL website and download the One-Stop Financial Management Guide. This is really my go-to guide for any questions having to do with administering federal grants. And then, of course, there's our website. So if you haven't already, please do check out our website. We have spent some time over the past year reviewing our directives and updating them. So they're all current. So go ahead and take a look at that for everyone on the phone call, and then also forward the website and the directives to even your program folks, anyone who's dealing with our program, suggest to take a look at that. And then once you've gone through the steps, all of those steps, and if you have any specific questions, and if you feel like you need one-on-one TA, I'm definitely available for that. So there's my contact information. This was meant to be just a review of the process, but again, if I'm available for any specific questions that you might have. Pass it off to Chris.
All right. Does anybody have anything they want to ask Lisa, or continue and move on? All right, we'll keep going then. Okay, so I just want to give you a little bit of context of why we're moving to online invoice and why this solution specifically. We've taken the last 2 years to really look at different options that are out there in the way of online invoicing systems. We looked at other ones that the city uses, other ones that are available from other vendors, and really the reason we were looking for something are these main points. So, with us moving on to an online invoicing system, it's obviously going to be easier for you guys to submit your reimbursement requests and for us to review them, because all the costs are going to be directly entered, supporting documents will be uploaded, everything's in the same place. So you won't have to chase down your mail carriers on the 9th of the month anymore with giant packages of supporting documents. It's just all going to be in the system. It'll also be a little, quite a bit easier to track and reconcile because it's going to be more transparent. You won't be filling out Excel spreadsheets that, once in a while we break formulas here and there. It'll also keep track of your balances for you. It'll keep track of submission dates, previously reported expenditures, accruals, etc. So it'll be easier for both of us to really know where you're at any given point in the year from a financial standpoint with your grants. It's also going to allow us to do some easier analysis of the investments. So, at this point, when you mail in your invoices, we do some basic data entry so that we can keep track of what's going on our end. But we don't record every detail on there. So right now, it's hard for us to answer questions about specific programs, specific parts of our expenses. We're pretty limited in what we can provide. So with an online invoicing system, we'll have more robust reporting and really look at things like, how much staff time do these programs really require, and how much of the dollars that we're granting out are going into things like direct participant support. The other thing that's going to be great about this is that it'll be easier for compliance review. So we've built certain business rules within the system so that you'll only see budget items that are allowable for that fund source. You'll only be able to bill for expenses for items that you've budgeted. And it'll also carry over accrued expenses from month to month. So those of you who are working with federal funds especially, you know that sometimes that can be tough. You'll record an accrued expense and request reimbursement for it in the first month, and then sometimes, the reconciliation gets a little strange after that point. So this will help, again, keep everything in one place and keep a good trail from month to month. So why TGS specifically? Like I said, we've spent quite a bit of time looking at other solutions, and these are some of the biggest benefits that we found with TGS. So because it's built with several integrated modules or applications, it's highly customizable, and it's something that we can continue to grow with. So we're going to focus today on just a couple of the modules that are available, mainly, again, the online invoicing piece, which is called 7C². We'll talk a little bit about how you can update your profile, how to pull reports, things like that. But over the next 6 months to a year, we'll continue to work with TechMecca and customize the other applications as well, and continue to roll out those throughout the year. Another reason is because we have a lot of crossover with the Mayor's Office of Housing. A lot of our grantees are already familiar with the basics of TGS. There are going to be quite a few differences in our version versus the Mo version. But because the base is the same, it'll help us roll this out a little bit quicker, a little easier. Also, because we have the two versions that have basically the same information in them from a financial standpoint, we're going to be able to pull cross-reporting and really look at a more holistic picture of the workforce investments. There's also a great help desk feature within TGS. Can you go back one?
Sorry.
Thanks. So we'll talk more about help desk. Alfred will show you a demo of it. But because we have a fairly small administrative staff here in the Workforce Development Division, this will really help you and help us get issues resolved quickly, get suggestions logged. It's a great clearinghouse for help for both of us. And also because TechMecca is familiar with the Mayor's Office of Housing and has worked with us on some other projects, they're pretty familiar with our business processes, which means that we were able to get this system up, customized, and running a whole lot faster than we would have been able to if we were going to build from the ground up. Okay, so for those of you who have experience with the Mayor's Office of Housing's version, I want to say a couple of things. So if you have CDBG dollars especially, you may already be working with Hazel through TGS, and that version is going to stay the way it is. So if you negotiated a grant using TGS, because we were piggybacking on Mo, your reporting is going to stay the same for that grant that you negotiated. So we're not going to flip you into the new version. If traditionally, though, you've been sending us paper invoices, you will be just in the new version. Some of you are going to have logons for both. So here's what's different and why. Essentially, the Mayor's Office of Housing version looks at participant services as one track or one path through the system and looks at financial transactions as a separate track. So they don't mix too much. And the idea behind that is, CDBG doesn't require that financial data and participant data really cross over. So everything gets just reported once. However, for those of you that have Workforce Investment Act dollars, you know that that doesn't quite hold true when we get to WIA. If you have, if you're currently putting your participants into Workforce Central, you're going to continue to use Workforce Central for participant data. So no participant data is going to go into the new version of TGS. But what's going to happen is, what we did is we customized the newer version of TGS to allow us to track WIA dollars which break by fund source. So either you have WIA adult, you have WIA dislocated worker, maybe you have WIA youth dollars, or all three. And then you know that within each of those sources, then there are service categories as well. So really, when you're doing WIA reporting, you're crossing both boundaries between apricots and plums, and you get messy little pluots. So let's take a look at, okay. So Alfred's going to talk a little bit through the system structure, and then we'll do, like I said, we'll do a live demo of a dummy project that we've built. And then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about what happens after today, timelines, and that sort of thing.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. My name is Alfred. I am from TechMecca, and I'm the senior advisor at TechMecca. So I am going to run through a couple of slides with you guys in terms of providing you an overview of the what TGS is, a total grant solution, and we're going to jump into the actual system. So what you're seeing here right now on the screen is basically explaining TGS structure. So total grant solution is if you will, is a end-to-end grants management system. So how it's designed is by applications handling different processes for the grant making process. So as you can see on the screen, it's divided into different applications. You most likely be using, there are applications like agency info, managing your information for your organization, 7C squared, the one that Chris mentioned that you'll be using to submit your billing information. Online RFP, where you will submit a proposal. Green light, you use it for negotiating and finalizing a contract. My profile is where individual users can manage their own passwords and their own information. Report builder is where you can find reports and download data and so on and so forth. So what you see here is a relations between applications and the process. What we're doing here is actually we are rolling out the system to you guys slightly backward. It's starting from step 7 rather than through 1 through 7 normally during a grant making process, because you guys already have submitted proposals and it's been approved. I think Chris might be able to talk more about the process in itself and how we roll out additional tools and systems. Um, okay. So before we jump into the actual system, so the couple of things that I want to bring it up. So especially for those of you using both workforce version and most version of TGS. So Total solution is divided by by instances, what we call it. So they are just they can tell you can tell the difference between different instances by its 6 letter right after totalgrantsolution.org. And for OEWD's instance, you look for it as TGSEWD. If you're looking at most version, it says TGSSFO. So that's one way to identifying the correct version and instance that you will be working in. Always make sure that there's an S after HTTP to make sure that is transmitting on a secure channel. So another way of distinguishing between instances, at the front page, you see a completely different picture between different offices and different instances, as you see on the screen here. So before we actually log into the system, so we'll be going through specifically something that not part of the reporting process. We want to walk you through about navigation in the system, to help us how to submit a ticket, and about learning files and how to use TGS, and anything about the homepage. So I'm going to log in real quick. So here I am already at the login page of TGSEWD, and you can see the logo and picture in the background. And I'm using a test account for today's presentation. So once you
I want to jump in here really quickly and give you guys a heads up. Because you all submitted proposals already online for this grant cycle, what we've done is when we set up this instance of TGS for the workforce grants, we took your agency information and your proposals that you submitted already and have moved those over. So some of the areas that Alfred's going to show you, like the agency info tab, you probably want to go in and just double check and make sure that there's nothing that you want to update. But when you look in there, it shouldn't be blank, again, because we carried the data over. We've also carried over logins and passwords. So between today and when we set you loose on the new system in the middle of August, I'll be emailing out information about your organizational administrator, who they are, if you need permissions reset, and you'll get some more information on that after today. Thanks, Alfred.
Okay. So once you have successfully logged on to the system, this is the homepage, the first thing that you'll be seeing. So let's look at what's on this page. So let's start from the top. So once you successfully log on, you see your name being on top and your organization's name right underneath that. And then you see right now there's a what we call an avatar right next to this information. And if you upload your picture onto the system, you see your picture there. And I will show you how to do that, along with changing your password and your other personal information on the system later. So the next thing, what you see here, it's called a switcher. So it's a drop-down list, and this is how you navigate between applications in the system. So how to use it? Very simple. So you click on where you want to go in the system, and then click on Go. Since we're on a home page, I'm not going to click on that. So let's scroll down a little bit in the home section. What you're seeing is two main sections on this page, the Messages Center and the Dashboard area. So what you're seeing here is a message. When you click on it, click on the banner and the title banner, you'll be able to see the message underneath there. So there are two types of messages. The one that you're seeing with the TGS logo, the messages are coming from us, TechMecca, and it's for system-specific information. So, for example, if we're rolling out new applications, if there's new training files, new reports, and other type of information, for example, schedule maintenance, that type of information would be here. And another type of information that you'll be seeing here also is coming from OEWD. And so what you'll be seeing is a different type of icon. It will look like two talking bubbles right here. And the next section is called dashboard. Basically, it's like your inbox. It's your organization and user specific. The task, for example, like a project's been approved and new submission is required. You'll be able to see it in the dashboard area. So the next thing I'm going to go through real quick is a help desk. So there's a tab right here, or you can go to the drop down. They all function in the same way. And so I click on it. And the next thing you see is a new browser window with a form on there. So we're going to talk about a little bit about how to use the form. So the form itself is divided into two portions, the left-hand side and the right-hand side. The left-hand side is basically your contact information and anything about you, the user owner that is submitting the ticket to us. And on the right-hand side is where you provide issue-specific information to us. So under the area of interest, there's a drop-down box. So you see here the different types of listed by type issues and by applications. So the list would grow as we're rolling out more different type of applications in here. So also there's a how-to. So let's say if you need additional information or how to, let's say, submit a ticket, you can use that option and then provide a description of what you need, and we'll get back to you. And then so if it's a system-specific issue, so for example, today we'll be talking about billing process, which you'll be using 7C Square, for example. Let us know specifically what date and time the issue happened. It's very helpful for us to resolve your issue quickly that way, because we have a log in the back of the system. Actually, we can cross-reference the issue to see what's going on. And if you have a project ID or a contract ID, let us know also, because we can quickly identify and zoom into a specific project or to that project and contract, especially when you have more than one project and one contract in the system. In this description area, provide us as much information as possible or as detailed as possible. That would help us in terms of, again, to help you resolve the issue as quickly as possible. So when you're done, click on the submit button. So a couple of things. Once you hit the submit button, you'll be receiving a confirmation email. It'll be coming from two addresses. One of the two addresses. One is helpdesk at techmeca.org, or it will be coming from helpdesk@totalgrantsolution.org. And one reminder is to check your spam folder, especially if you have this is your first time using the system. And you might want to check your email application to allow the domain to be delivered to your regular folder. And a couple comments about help desk issues and comment and new ideas, and but especially for any type of issues that required overriding someone else's approval process. We do send a confirmation email to all issue owner before we do anything. So there's something to be aware of. So the next thing we want to talk about is learning. So if you go to the learning tab right now, currently, there are only 2 little videos there right now. But what we're doing is we started something called a new channel on YouTube. It's called Learning TGS. So when you go to youtube.com, and then look for Learning TGS in one word, and then you'll see our learning channel there. So if you click on it, you'll see videos that has already been uploaded onto the system, and we are currently uploading additional training videos onto the site. And so let us know if there's any additional training that you need, or how to, for example, how to submit a ticket. Let us know, submit us a ticket, and we'll upload the information onto the site. And so later on, what we're going to do is we're going to also make those video available on this page. So there are 2 ways for you to access the videos. One is through TGS. The other way is you can go directly to youtube.com looking for learning the channel Learning TGS in one word. So the next thing I'm going to go through, well, actually, is there any questions so far?
No.
Okay, good. So I'm going to go through some of the application with you guys. The first one I'm going to do is agency info. So in the switcher drop down, you look for agency info, then click on the go button. Okay, and you will be once you're in the application, you see agency info on the page. And agency info as an application is divided into 3 sections: contact, general, and financial. So I'm going to go through the 3 sections with you really quickly. Contact is basically divided by into 3 sections: mailing address, agency contact, executive director contact, and that's the page that you're seeing right now. So your agency name, your tax ID information. If you want to upload your organization's logo and make it more personal, that's where you would do it. Your mailing address, agency contact, excuse me, executive director's contact information. And then if we go to general, you'll see the full-time employee information and FTE and volunteer pool and FTE. Some of these allowed OEWD folks to do some analysis in terms of cost analysis and so on and so forth. The next section is organizational background. That's where you'll be putting your mission statement and your program information. These information will be available if you are submitting an proposal later on to OEWD. So you just need to fill it out one time, and the system would automatically merge information for you during the proposed RFP time. The next thing is the upload function for your documentations. So you can, in this area, you can upload your article of incorporation, article of incorporation amendment, 501c3 status letter, and so on and so forth. So what you do is click on the browse button, look for the appropriate document, and then upload. One thing to be aware of, the system right now is set to only accept PDF files. And then we move on to the next section is the ADA information. That's where you can provide your ADA coordinator's contact information and name, and your ADA policies, and so on and so forth. And there's an option for you to upload documents also, same thing as the organizational documents. So the next thing, area that it's important for you guys to manage users within your organization. So this section, it says agency info, agency users. It's only visible for a user with organizational admin rights. Otherwise, if you don't have that user access, this area is blank, and the only area that you see is the text block here. So what you're seeing is it's a grid of all the users under your organization. So I'm going to demonstrate how to add a user. So you click on the add user link, and then the system will provide a blank record. So you insert the person's last name, first name. User ID, the system automatically generate one for you if you don't have any ideas, or the system would provide you with a unique ID. If not, you can just change it. So just delete it. Your password. And one important thing that I want to go through it with you is the user level within the system. So these are all the user level available to you. The highest one is called organizational admin, administrator, as I mentioned before. So that is the highest level of user within your organization inside TGS. So any user with this level have the ability to submit certain things. For example, a proposal, a negotiated contract, and monthly reporting requests to OEWD. So there are other functions also. For example, data entries, specifically only for financial person, data entry for program people only, read only for program and financial area. Data entry all is it's basically doing everything that a organizational admin can do except for submitting information in the system. So there are the two read only function also, so you can provide to your board member if they're involved in your program. So once you're done, you put an email address, and then you click update to save the information. But at this point, I'm just going to cancel out.
So by agency, you guys can have one or you can have multiple organizational admins. And so this is the piece that for most of you, your proposals were submitted by your executive directors and they were signed up as org admins. Again, I'll send out the information to each of you about your specific agency and who signed up as an org admin. And then we leave it up to you to decide within your organization how you guys want to set permissions. So it may be that they're more comfortable setting folks up as data entry, and then they log in themselves and actually push the submit buttons on your invoices. Again, we leave that up to you because it does work as an electronic signature. That's yours to decide.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. And then the next section is officers' information. So it's the the executive director's information and COO if you have any, CFO. And the next section is board of directors. It's the same way that you enter information by clicking on the add board of director link, and a new grid would appear just like the user grid and the officers grid. And okay, and then we'll go to the next section, which is the financial section. So there are two things on this page. One is the organizational funding. This is where you provide information about your organization, your overall funding for your organization. And then right underneath that is the again the uploading function for you to upload, let's say, audit finding or audit letters, 990, that type of information onto the system. The next section is the insurance area. As we all know, when you become a grant recipient, you're required to provide certain level of insurance, and this is where you'll be inputting the insurance information when it's expired with the coverage that is required by OEWD in this case. And the next section is where you can upload your proof of insurance into the system. And it's something that also the system utilize these information to help OEWD in reviewing payments and other requirements. So when you're done, click on the big orange submit button either on the bottom on top, and you're done. And something about agency info is you can always go in here to change the information and manage your information accordingly. You don't have to wait until when you're submitting a proposal, or when something happens. If you need to change your address onto your mailing address or something like that, you can do it at any time. So the
Can
next,
I ask a quick question?
sure.
This is Lori. You're up. I think, Chris, you were the one mentioning that our data moved over from prior grants. Does that include the documentation as well?
Yes.
Yes. So the only
and from how long ago? So, for example, we're currently receiving H-1B or Department of Labor money, but we originally did all of these forms, maybe 2-3 years ago when we did CDBG. So I'm assuming you're going to want more recent proofs of insurance and what have you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll probably need you to go back in and at least upload the insurance piece.
Okay.
Yeah, because what we carried over was we carried over the last RFP cycles info.
Okay. Yeah, so that would have been when we did WEA CDBG.
Exactly. Yep.
Because H-1B was submitted on behalf of the city actually did that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. The next thing I want to show you is my profile. So you pick my profile from the drop down, click on the go button. So what you see here is a screen that says my profile. This is where you can change your information, your phone number, your email address, your name if you want to, and also you can upload your a picture if you like. So for example, that's how you change your avatar on the system. The next thing I think is the important thing is where you can change your password. That's in addition to an organizational admin to going into agency info to change it for you. You can actually change it for yourself here under my profile. so it is important to change the password once in a while, because the system does contain financial information about your organization and potentially payroll information in the system. So once you're done, click on submit and you're done. Another thing that I want to bring it up is there will be new sections underneath my profile. There's something that we're adding that you can control your communication flow from the system, for example, newsletters and so on and so forth. And this is where you'll be able to do that. And so we are jumping into 7C squared. So as you can see, 7C squared is it looks a little different than the other application. So we are in the process of upgrading the interface, and so make it more with a little better, more advanced technology, and that you can also use potentially if you're on the go, be able to use it on the tablet and so on and so forth. So in this case, it's looking the same and the same as most version right now. So once you successfully log on to 7C squared, and you see again your name here on top and your organization's name. And so the next thing you need to do is to pick the contract that you want to be working on. So in this case, we're going to pick contract 1016 from the drop down. So underneath here, once the system grabs the information, it'll let you know that this is confirming the contract that you're working on, and your grant coordinator at OEWD. So just in case that you have questions, so you can contact in person. So the next sections that you're seeing is there are only two tabs here: welcome and financial reporting. For those of you are using both systems or instances, in most instance, you'll see more tabs. However, for OEWD, since you'll be using or reporting financial information through the system, you're only seeing financial reporting tab. So I'm going to click on that, and what you see underneath there, it's what's called a contract calendar, and this is showing that how many months that is within your contract. So this is showing 12 months, so this is a 12-month contract. So if you have a contract that is longer, all the months will show up. So for example, if you have a 24-month contract, you'll see all 24 months here. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I'm reporting for July 2013. So I'm going to click on the Go button next to July 2013. So what happened is you'll see a next screen in the system. So now the expense info it's highlighted. And then so what happened is for OEWD grants is the budget is divided by program area, by budget, and by activities. And so when you guys negotiated, the budget is already divided that way. So for this contract, as for demonstration purpose, we picked 4 activity and there are 4 different sets of budget. So I'm going to use intensive services in this case. So once I pick...
Alfred, I'm going to jump in here just for
Sure.
a second. So as I had mentioned earlier, some of you guys have very different types of funding. So if you are used to only submitting an invoice and a budget to us that is just a 1-column invoice, 1-column budget, because all your activities are combined, in that drop-down box that says select an activity, you'll only have one option. So for example, like if you only have a general fund activity, the activity that you see in the drop-down will say something like all activities. But for those of you who have WIA dollars, you'll have all the appropriate sub-activity options. And then the other thing to note is the way that we set up this dummy one is we only set it up off of one fund source. So Again, most of you who have WIA, you have both WIA adult and WIA dislocated worker. So when you're at this point in the system, you'll actually see two columns right next to each other for amount requested. You'll see amount requested for WIA adult. You'll see amount requested for WIA dislocated worker. So the idea was, to get as much on the same screen as possible to make it easier for you guys to see across and report more easily.
Okay. So normally, as you can see, budget is a lot, with a lot more budget line items than this. So, this is a dummy demo. So we're using this handful of line items. So in the case that you have a really long list of budget line items or budgets, you can use these filters to help you shrink down the display. So for example, I'm going to work on operating costs. And so I click on that. And then I'm looking to input equipment. And the system automatically narrow down to that category and subcategory for you. So in this case, I'm going to go back to all. So now I'm going to explain to you how the different types of input for the budget. So as you can see, there are this line right here, the first one, with a magnifying glass icon to the left, and the other ones don't. So what's the difference between the two? So any line items that has a magnifying glass to the left, that means that there's a subform. And also what that means is the input field next to it is non-editable. I'm clicking delete here, and it's not doing anything. So what happened is, if you click on the icon, it'll bring you to a different screen. So since earlier we selected intensive services, so it will bring you to the salary form for the intensive services activity. So what happened is your team members for this particular activity would already be here. So if you're editing, let's say we're in July, click on the edit link, and John worked, let's say, 40 hours. When you're done, click update. And then you see the form automatically calculate your payroll amount that would be submitting to OEWD. And then you can also manage your list or add new members by just typing a name. And then click on the add team member link. And then there's a new record for Hazel. Let's say program staff. $5. An hour, let's say 30 hours. And then click on update. And from a earlier session, so there was a question in terms of if it's a salary-based person, you can use rate of 1 and then input the total. Oh, I mean for the hours. And then you update the total. When you're done, click on the back button. And you see that the total has been updated on this form. So, and the other line item that you see here, those are direct input. So you can just change it to, let's say I'm going to put $350 here. That should be 150, and so on and so forth. And you go through all the different line items, and then you click on the Save Data button. So you're done for this particular activity. So what you need to do is to scroll through all the activities that you are reporting for the month. So when you're done, click on the number 2 step button. And what you see here is a consolidated expenses for that month that you worked on step 1. So, for example, the line item salary is actually across all 4 activity into one. So, what you're seeing here in the actual expenditure column, all those dollar amount represents the sum of all the activities that you have done in step 1. And so if you have to change the information or you need to make a correction, how you would do is go back to step 1, pick on the appropriate activity that you need to make a correction, save the data, and then go to step 2 again, and you see the newly reflected information here. So one thing to point out, it's two things actually. Very different than the mode version is one is the upload area, and the other one is the accrued area. So in the under the upload invoices column, in each row of the budget line item, you see an upload link, and so you click on that link, and you see a pop-up. And so that's where you can browse for your supporting document. You find the right one and then click on the upload button. Once it's successfully uploaded, it will be available in this drop down for you to review. And you can also review the upload document. If it's incorrect, you can remove the invoice from here. And then once you're done, click on the close button to get out of there. And so you can go through every single every single budget line item, then upload the appropriate supporting document for that line item. So what's next to the upload link in the next column is called uploaded. Basically, it right now is you're seeing here is 0, means that there's no document has been uploaded. So for example, if you have a payroll registry uploaded, it'll be 1, if you have one, or if you're actually uploading timesheets for, let's say, I think it was 5 employees under the program, it will say 5 here. So the other area is inputting your accrued amount in the green area. So once you're done, you'll see a summary of the expenses in the bottom area. So one important thing that we mentioned before, you need to be an organizational admin to see the submit button. And this is the case that I am signing on as a organizational admin. Otherwise, you see a blank area and you would not be able to see a submit button. So the next applications that I will be walking through really quickly is Report Builder. So again, go to the switcher, choose Report Builder, and then click on the Go button.
So this next section is going to be important because when you submit your invoice, you're not going to automatically get a copy of it. It's not going to pop up a PDF. It's not going to suggest that you save it or anything like that. You can always go back into the system and view it. It'll be there for as long as the system is there. But this is how you'll go in and actually be able to save a copy of that invoice, either as a PDF or print it out and save it if you'd like to.
Hey, Christine, I actually have a question about 7C2.
Sure.
I noticed that the executive summary was still on the financial reporting tab. Are we going to need to have that completed?
No, it's going to go away. The executive summary and the milestones are both going to go away. We just haven't detached them quite yet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So in the report builder, we're currently making a lot of changes, and it will be rolling out soon. But in the meanwhile, the current report builder, it's divided into 3 tabs: the custom reports, canned reports, and agency documents. So there are a lot of data queries already available to you. So they are divided by actually business processes and subject matters. There's something that you can do it for to write your own report and or as a download the information as Excel sheets or other formats, for example, a PDF, Word document, and or Word documents. So in the canned reports tab, as Chris was mentioning, that the system does not prompt you to save or print a actual record for yourself. Everything is stored in the system. However, if you want to have a actual copy, a hard copy of your report. So, for example, you submitted for the July invoice to OEWD. You pick monthly program and cost report from the drop down, and then click on which contracts that you want. In this case, we were working on contract 1016. Put a date range or a date into the date field, and then click on the run button here. So one thing that's important is to allow your browser for the pop-up for the report, because otherwise, when I click on it, in this case, I didn't set anything. It just flashes because the browser is preventing it from opening up the report. And so once the report is open, you can either print it out as your hard record or save it into a PDF for your record. In the agency doc section, as earlier I mentioned that there are many different areas in the system allow you to upload and manage document specifically in those applications. So for example, I think there are at least 3 areas in agency info that allow you to upload documents. You can go to Report Builder Agency Doc tab to see all those documents that you uploaded from different applications and different locations in the system in one place. So you can select. Well, right now for OEWD, they didn't upload anything, so you're not seeing the list of documents that is available. But otherwise, you see a full list of all the information that has been submitted, and you can manage your documents here also. And I think I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Is there any questions that I can answer so far?
I have one.
Sure.
I have a quick question. Sorry, I talked over somebody.
It's okay. This is Tari. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Tari.
So I just have a question about with the TC2. It's like for us from the City College. So when we submit invoice, we also need to submit the backup document for the expenditures part and the salary. So do we have an option to attach it on this online reporting as well?
Yeah. So when you're in 7C², Alfred, do you want to go back to that screen for me? When you're actually in part 2. Just a sec, we'll get there. So that column right there that he highlighted that has an upload link, when you click that, that's where you're going to attach the PDF file, the supporting documents.
Oh, okay. It's upload invoice, so I'm kind of like, is that
oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it'll be your ADP payroll or, whatever it is for that line item that you're using to support the charge. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you.
No problem.
And there was another question?
Yeah, this is Lori.
Lori.
You're up. In the old days, 7C2, we used to submit reports for CDBG. Will we be doing reports electronically for H-1B or continuing with the template that we've been using this past year?
For like participant reporting, and I think they have doing a quarterly one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, you're going to continue doing your quarterly narratives as you and John and Patrick have figured out. We're really only rolling out 7C squared at this point for the finance side.
Finances. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
One of the things that we are going to look at, and I'm going to talk to John a little bit more about, is if we do want to flip on the executive summary piece of this and collect your narratives online. But at this point, only finance.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so if we don't have any more system-related questions, we'll hop back to the PowerPoint. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Chris. It's Taria. I just have one more question about the budget part. Like when we do the invoicing, so for us, like we do have salary and benefit and that. So once you upload our budget that we apply for the grant at the beginning of the year, so that will reflect into the system, like we just gonna have. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do, this is actually a great segue into the next slide. Thanks, Tari. So what Nestor and I are going to be doing with the help of the TechMecca team over the next week is we will take those Excel budgets that you submitted with your actual grant agreements, and we'll build them into the system in the back end. So that, so that the week of the 12th, you guys will be live. We'll shoot you an email to let you know that we're done. And then when you actually go into 7C squared, you will see the budget line items that we've agreed to in your grant agreement, and you'll be able to bill against them.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. And one more note about that, I know that we often do budget revisions with you guys throughout the year. Yeah. So, at this point, most of you, these are brand new budgets, so we probably won't need to do budget revisions for the first couple of months. But some of you, we're actually going to move a longer-term agreement into here, so some of you may need budget revisions sooner rather than later. Alfred and I are working on customizing the system so that we can do online budget modification requests, but that's not available quite yet. So we'll probably roll that out in September, October. If you find that you need a budget revision before that's available, we're going to do it the same way we've kind of traditionally done it. So just go ahead and take that Excel budget spreadsheet, rework it the way that you need to, and then email it to your grant coordinator, and we'll fix it on the back end for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll give you a heads up right now. Europe's going to have to do a few. We've had some staff changes.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So what happens after today? We have done a lot of testing on the system, but I know that we haven't caught everything. So, that help desk support is going to be really important. If you guys hit errors, please report them through there. Or if you just have quick questions, Ness and I are also here to help you with those. But because we did some serious customization, I just want to give you a heads up that we know that you may hit some strange things here this first month or the first two. The other thing is that because we're continuing to build as we go along in the next 6 months to a year, if you have suggestions of reports that you want to see, maybe while you're in the system, you're looking at how the instructions are written, and it seems a little funky and you want to make a suggestion of how we could reword things, we are completely open to all of that. So please, whatever suggestions you have, go ahead and filter them through Help Desk. And Alfred and I will continue to meet regularly and make some of those changes as we go along. Okay, so in the next week and a half, like I said, my team is going to go ahead and take those negotiated budgets. We'll push them into the system, and so that the week of the 12th, we'll be live and you guys can start invoicing your July invoices. Obviously, the 12th is after the 10th, so this first invoice round is going to be a little bit later than we normally do. So the week of the 12th is when you'll be live. You can start working on it. And then this first set of invoices for July are going to be due by close of business on the 19th. You guys are welcome to use the system from wherever you're located, but I also wanted to give you an opportunity that if you need some actual hands-on assistance, we are reserving a computer lab here at 1 South Van Ness for a couple of days during the week of the 12th. And I'll send out information on how to RSVP and reserve a spot in the lab. I think we're going to do it in like 1-hour chunks. So if you want to just come in, maybe you want to bring your July expense information with you and just have somebody available if you get stuck, we're open to doing that that week. And tentatively, I think we have the lab reserved for the 14th and 16th, which is the Wednesday and Friday. But again, I'll send out emails to everybody on the call so that you have that information if you need it. And then as soon as you guys start submitting, we'll start reviewing. So like normal, if we have questions about costs or things that you've uploaded or need additional documents, etc., we'll just give you a call and let you know.
And you guys will be continuing to pay via wire transfer this year
Exactly.
as well?
Yep. Everything will come back out through ACH. Yep.
Cool.
One thing to note is once you submit that month's invoice through 7C², you will not be able to go back and edit it. So if you submit and then you figure out you forgot a charge or you accidentally did something a little strange once you look at the report, you can just call Nestor and I, and what we can do is we can reverse it back to you so that it's available for you to edit again. So you don't have to wait for us to call you. And the other thing to note is that if for some reason you're not going to bill in a specific month, so let's say for instance you don't have any participants that are going to be there in July and you're a new grantee and your programming doesn't actually start until September, I would still really appreciate it if you guys open the month of July and just submit a zero reimbursement. That way we know you didn't forget. We know that you actually, weren't planning on getting paid for that month. Okay. All right. Next slide. Okay, a couple of allowable cost reminders. These are a couple of things that we saw this year that I just thought it'd be helpful to clarify for the whole group. They may or may not apply to you. The first one is that city grant agreements don't allow for payment of any late fees or penalties. So if your organization, gets into a situation where maybe you had to pay your utility bill late, and there's a late fee on there, when you upload that document as proof of charge, you also need to upload something that shows us that no portion of that late fee was allocated to the grant. And if you don't, we may call and ask about it. So that's just kind of a heads up on that. We've had a couple of grantees hit that situation this year, but again, not all of you. The other one I wanted to mention was supportive services. So some programs have supportive services. Honestly, a lot of ours do, but not all of them. If you do have supportive services or incentives or however you think of them that are built into your grant budget, we need to see not only proof of the charge, but also proof that that piece of support went to the participant. So let me explain that a little bit more. So some grantees, for instance, just pay straight wages to their participants while they're in internships. And so what they will upload is they'll upload copies of the checks that were cut to those folks. That's great. It proves both that the charge happened and it proves that it went to the participant because the participant's name is on the check stub. But other folks do things like they'll give out gift cards. So maybe they hit a milestone in their IEP, which now earns them a $20 Target gift certificate. When you're charging for those things, you need to be uploading not only the receipt from Target for the gift card, but also proof that the client actually got that gift card. So not to be too difficult, a lot of folks, what they'll do is they'll either do a sign-in log. So as the participants pick up their gift certificates, they'll just have them sign and date that they got it. Other folks will make copies of the gift card, all the gift cards, and then have the participant sign when they pick it up. make sure you're uploading those documents as well for us, because again, we need to prove charge, and then we need to prove that the participant actually received whatever that benefit was. Okie dokie.
Yeah.
So resources. As Alfred showed us, there's the TGS Learning channel, so there's the link for it. And again, we'll have this PowerPoint available to you guys. I'll email it out after the presentation. Also, the TGS Help Desk, please make use of that. And whether it's a suggestion or whether it's an actual bug that you hit, as many details as you can give help us really narrow down what your issue is or what you're asking for. Also, to reiterate what Lisa said, the OEWD directives, forms, and guidance, there's some information about how to get to that. I believe she gave you the direct link as well. And of course, if you have any questions, Ness and I are always here. So for those of you who were with, who negotiated your budgets with Casey this year, you'll be in my portfolio until we're able to staff up. And then we'll move the portfolios around again. And for those of you who are with Nestor, I would imagine you already know if you are. So there's some other resources for you after today. Does anybody else have any questions that you want to answer today?
Nope, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, then we'll go ahead and conclude the webinar. And of course, just let us know if you have questions or suggestions afterwards.
Great. Thank you.